I would like to call to order this November 7th meeting of the EA Drainage District Number 1 Board of Commissioners. We welcome all of you here tonight, and we will begin with roll call, which we have Councilman Robert is absent, Councilman Ogeron is absent, Councilman Lambert and Councilman Wagasback, or Commissioner Wagasback, are all absent. The rest are present. We certainly have a quorum. I'd like to call on Mr. Cagnolati, if he would please, to say our invocation and follow that with the pledge.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Lord Jesus, you withhold no good thing from us, and you lavish us with the treasures of your love. Help us to seek your kingdom first and to lay aside anything that might hinder us from doing your will. We pray this, Jesus, in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cagnolati, you have something you want to say? You're already lit up.
Nope.
No problem. All right, moving right along, we will have the acceptance of the minutes.
Motion to accept minutes. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. I have no announcements to make other than we want to keep this short and sweet, gentlemen. And we will move on to item number 6, our general business. A, approval of change order number 1 to the contract with ERS Incorporated for channel lining improvements at Sides Bayou, Courthouse Lateral, and Bayou Francois Lateral to add to the contract amount the sum of $2,984. The new contract total is $745,726. Mr. Monso.
Motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati, a second by Mr. Lawler. Mr. Monso.
Okay,
You have
yeah,
any-
this is a final change order. We have a little increase of around 3,000, and that was kind of unforeseen conditions, field conditions. We had to replace more of a driveway than needed, add additional sticks of pipe. Nothing big. That's roughly about a 0.4% increase, so I mean, I'll take that any day.
We will too.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B, approval of a substantial completion of the channel lining improvements at Sides Bayou, Courthouse Lateral, and Bayou Francois Lateral with ERS Incorporated. Have a motion by Mr. Mason. Couldn't see you, Michael, so I couldn't call your name. Motion by Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any questions? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Would y'all like to see a quick update, project update?
Please.
With financials? Again, this is a channel improvements. We're lining with concrete. Again, it's not a capacity increase in these channels. It's basically for maintenance purposes. So Ron and his crew don't have to keep sending out hand labor. First one is Bayou Francois Lateral. In this situation, it wasn't more of maintenance, but there was some severe eroding at the dog leg right here, so we addressed that. This is pictures during construction and after. You can see where the turn is. That whole area was just washing out, so now we got it pretty sewed up now. Courthouse Lateral, I'm sure y'all seen that during construction, after construction. Sides Bayou, that's the last channel we just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. During construction, and here's the completion. Overall, I mean, you can see on this first picture all the way to the left, you can see how close we were to these houses and the fences. And this contractor was really, really good. Very surprised at his work, what they were able to do with just a few people. But they got it done without any residents getting, perturbed. So overall, we felt that it was a really good project with a good contractor. Here's a real quick update on the finances. Our engineering cost estimate, which was the budgeted amount, was around $1 million. The low bid was $742,742. Final construction $745,726. So that's our overage. Engineering cost was $283,444, and that's for design, construction, admin, and res inspection for all three mini projects. Final engineering cost was $251,627.50, and that reduced amount was just inspection, res inspection that we didn't use on the project. So we're under budget on that one. Total project savings about $28,000.
Excellent, thank you so much. Mr. Lawler?
Have we been able to identify, or I don't know if you've been part of the process, identify any more projects like this? Because they seem to have worked pretty well, done pretty quickly.
Yeah, I believe they do.
Absolutely. In the 2024 proposed budget, there's some more construction funds budgeted for this craft. And what we've done is the Lifehouse Group. Those are the guys that are doing this hand labor work. And so Jonathan's group has a very good summary of data over the last couple of years of what they've done repetitively by hand. And we're using that data to make the decisions for 2024. So we're going to probably follow this project model and every year try to budget a little bit towards those nuisance type work orders to where we almost eliminate them. So yeah, absolutely. We definitely plan to keep this program going forward.
Okay, very good.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Cagnolati? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mason. Mason was ahead of you.
Thank you. So I want to say thank you very much. Mainly, obviously all the projects are helpful, but for Sides Bayou for sure. I know I could speak for Mr. Lambert if he was here. That was his district before the redistricting, and I took it over. And thank you to Ron and you guys for helping us out seriously, and Jared, all the good work. It looks fantastic, and I know the people of Villa Galvez are going to be very excited about this work. So thank y'all very much for that. We really appreciate it.
It's not it's not an end all be all fix, but it's just a part of the puzzle piece that we're trying to implement. So.
Madam Chair, if I may, I've got one more comment
Absolutely.
I'd like to throw out there. Look, they had some very concerned citizens there, and on the front of this project, they were very, very nervous. And I went and met with those folks. The contractor met with me on site with them. As I echo what Jarrett said, our contractor was amazing. But the faith that the residents had in us and the trust they put in us to do what we said we were going to do and see the project through, I built some relationships there, and it was really a great project. Very glad to be part of it. And I think those citizens are very satisfied with the final product as well. So I want to thank them and the contractor.
I look forward to the first rain.
Whenever that is.
We'll see how all this works.
Look, we love droughts and drainage now. Don't bring nothing all the way down.
I know, that's why the phone doesn't ring much anymore. Drought and drainage makes for a very, lots of time to do maintenance. Thank y'all very much. Mr. Cagnolati?
Jared, thank you. Echoing what Michael said, a lot of constituents called about that curve in that Francois lateral, and it just, the thing that's a question mark is it hasn't rained since the project's been completed. But we do know that it did wash out. It had been done, but not very effectively. It wasn't engineered very well years and years ago, and it didn't take long for it to literally wash out. They had to demo it to pull it out. But all the neighbors in that area are thankful and appreciative. They can't wait to see the outcome. I'm sure it's going to be great. And secondly, on the courthouse lateral, does that go to Francois or not quite?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it went all
ties
the way
into
to Francois.
Francois.
Okay.
Yeah, where you see that riprap.
I thought that was the scope. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you. Job well done.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. And I think we might have already done that. It was just a while back. Item C, approval of the substantial completion of the CIPP pipelining Old Perkins Manchac area in the amount of $158,019.42 with Anding Construction Services. I have a motion by Mr. Mason. Second by Mr. Melanson. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item D, approval of a resolution to purchase parcel number 8780500 located at 11191 Beco Road with an appraised value of $135,000. Ron?
Just kind of give you guys, so you can understand a little bit more about what the vote's about, but this is the property location. There is a mobile home on the property. Looking from Google Earth, you can see where that yellow circle is. If you see that dark squiggly line parallel in the channel, that's a slough off, and it's right next to the structure here. So you also can see in the shadows, the bulkhead is leaned out into Black Bayou. So we were called about this, and this has been going on for almost a year, probably more than a year. We had Jarrett with Hartman look into it, come up with some proposals, and offer some suggestions. You get a little closer look, you can really see the magnitude of the breakage in the bank and the stability of the structure right there by it is the concern. We tried to do a reactive, go get 3 quotes, make a repair, and when we did so, the quotes came back over $250,000. Therefore, we need to go out for bid. So doing that, well, then we had to go into development of a bid package and specifications. You kind of can see this was out there this morning. I took these photos. You can't mow the grass, can't get by the edge of it. It's just a bad situation. And when we got the cost and we got into the estimate of construction, you look at the overall projections here off to the right, you get to the total preliminary construction cost repair estimated at $337,000. And there's really no access to this area. Some of this may have to be done by barge and in the water. And so once we got into that, on top of it, you have the engineering fees of $123,000 for is putting the bids and specifications together and managing the project through the process of construction. So total cost estimate to repair this with no guarantees that it wouldn't occur again is $460,000. So through the process of evaluating all this, we started weighing our odds. Well, what's the property worth that we're going to fix? So we had an appraisal done on this lot, and kind of go back to the aerial. It's just not a very good situation for a residential lot. I mean, it's not even 100 feet from Beco Road to the canal. So unfortunately, these homes and things were there prior to the dredging projects in the early 2000s, so they worked around it. But now we are in the situation of having to maintain this bulkhead, and the parish has done so in the early 2000s. Right after construction, this line of bulkheads failed. They had an engineering firm that designed it. They called upon them to do an analysis, and it was deemed not due to construction methods, and the parish had to go in and fix it. So that's where we are with the same stretch of bulkheads, and we feel like we would need to make a repair here and or purchase the property. So the vote tonight is that appraisal comes back at $135,000, and we feel like we can purchase this property and go in with operations staff once we decommission the mobile home, possibly surplus it and auction it off. You might get some of those funds back. But then go in with maintenance crews and stabilize this bulkhead and possibly remove a section if it's not needed anymore on this lot. And so we're asking for a vote as staff is recommending to move forward to purchase.
And certainly the staff has been in question with the family or the owners of the property.
Yes, I believe that the Tussos may be in the audience tonight, and we definitely have brought them into the complex and had a meeting with those folks and just explained to them we sympathize with them through this process because they've been struggling. Their children live here, and they're fearful of it.
Yeah, I don't
Rightfully so.
blame them. And this works for you guys? All right. So I have a motion by Mr. Melanson and a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Are there any other questions? Mr. Mason has a question.
So are we gonna, which I'm completely on board with this, by the way. I want to make that evidently clear. But are we going to have to buy any more of those maybe down the line? Is that something we're looking at now, or?
We're definitely gonna be looking at the same scenario if we do. I do know that there are other areas that this bulkhead has shown signs, but it's stable now. We'll be watching it.
Okay.
But, in these areas where there's blacktop house bayou, it's probably an investment that we need to make to just try to look at those cost ratios when necessary, so possibly so.
Well, Ascension Parish land only goes up, so we may want to start looking at that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. Good point, Michael.
Understood.
Thank you, Ron.
Good point. Thank you so much. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Item E, approval to enter into an agreement between the United States Geological Survey and the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District during the period January 1, 2024 for maintenance and operation of 15 real-time stream gauges. The total cost to operate the program is $135,430. USGS will contribute $33,000. East Ascension Consolidated Gravity District Number 1's contribution is $102,430.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Lawler and a second by Mr. Mason to approve. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
We do have a public speaker for.
I have a public speaker on item F. That would be Mr. Arthur Smith. Mr. Arthur, if you will come up, and I think it might be helpful to you, Mr. Arthur, if Ron would give us an overview of this challenge, and then maybe we'll hear from you. That's great. That work?
Sure, we could do that. So this one's sort of unique. It's on Bayou Narcisse, just north of Highway 621 and the intersection of J.D. Broussard Road, near the Gulf Net Seafood area. And what has been brought to us is Mr. Smith has a timber bridge on his property. And he actually owns the east side of Bishop Woods and the west side of Bishop Woods. Both have Bayou Narcisse flowing through them. And he called and inquired about replacing his bridge. And our first response was, well, we can size it for box culverts, follow our culvert policy, you buy the materials, the parish can install it. Well, he then produced an agreement, cooperative endeavor agreement, executed by the parish president at the time and the Drainage Commission chairman at the time. So he had that document, and so I brought it to JP's attention. It actually states a replacement of a steel rail car bridge, which was a little ironic because the bridge in question is timber. So JP had suggested I bring it to you guys for review. As far as maintenance goes, there's really not a whole lot of need for the district to have this bridge because we have box culvert crossings under Bishop Woods that Bayou Narcisse goes across Bishop Woods. So we can put a gate on both the north and south side of Bayou Narcisse and access the canal for maintenance. So it's really a bridge for the purpose of Mr. Smith to get from one side to the other side of his property. However, the cooperative endeavor was due to a drainage project, I think around 2008, when the drainage crews went in and dug out Bayou Narcisse. The agreement says that in exchange for digging out the channel, he would dedicate a drainage servitude on both top banks of the canal. In exchange for those servitudes, it says the replacement of a steel bridge. So that was the question that we had going forward. Fast forward to today, that agreement was not filed at the clerk of court, and there's no drainage servitudes on record today. Now, if the board wishes to move forward in the framework of the agreement, I had made the suggestion in the agenda item maybe that we look at the HNTV model of what Bayou Narcisse is supposed to be according to the floodplain management model and acknowledge the channel widths and dedicate 25-foot servitudes on them. At some point when the drainage district's able to go in Bayou Narcisse from the top to the bottom and enlarge it to the right size of what the model says, we could potentially have an opportunity here to obtain those needed servitudes and channel widths. However, there's not really any guarantee as to when that improvement on Bayou Narcisse might take place. So it's kind of a, do we honor this agreement or do we go by the culvert policy? We really weren't clear exactly what the wish of the board would be on this one. That's why we brought it forward.
So, Mr. Smith, At this point, do you want to state your position?
Before I start, to answer your question about the steel bridge, at that time, that was what they was putting in. It's not
what was
safe
there.
for the parish to cross. Back in 2008, when they did this, the agreement was, I give the servitude, just like he said, in exchange for a bridge. And it was signed by Bill Rue and several people. They came in, they dug the bridge out, dug the ditch out, and we had some erosion problems. They came back and riff-raffed a lot of the north side to keep the erosion down. And then all I'm asking the parish to do is honor the contract that was signed years ago for me for a bridge. I've got pictures that the parish won't cross the bridge. The north side of the ditch is not cut. I can show you pictures. They cut the south side, but don't cut the north side because that's the way they got access. And I'm just asking for, what was agreed on. Back then, I didn't need a bridge. And I didn't want to be wasteful at the time. But now, the bridge is necessary. The parish don't cut but one side.
Right. Thank you very much. Mr. Lawler?
Yes, the servitude, that was for our benefit. We were the ones that were supposed to have recorded that, correct, though? As the parish, I say we?
That's my understanding. However, we went and had our right-of-way agent check that, and we didn't turn up the documents at clerk of court. So apparently that wasn't done. And it doesn't appear that the servitude documents were executed either, because they're not there at the clerk of court. So I think Jade had met with Mr. Smith, and they had talked about if this is voted, and the condition would be to formally go get those servitudes today, right?
That was my next
I think Mr. Smith would be
recommendation.
willing to do that.
That was my next question for Mr. Smith, is would you still be willing to live up to the servitude side of this, to grant the parish the servitude, like
It's
had been
in
promised?
the original document, 25-foot center.
Oh, no, I understand that, but since it's not recorded, it's really not
Oh, yeah.
enforceable. But if we could go and record that now, would you still be agreeable to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. The ditch is already that wide. It's already,
But I would say that it may or may not be. Remember, we just had a floodplain management model done, and they made suggestions on channel widths within that model. So I would suggest if we do entertain this, that we acknowledge the channel width that is needed there and the top bank widths are generated in the servitude language.
Do we have that information now, or do we need to?
Yes, I had gotten with Daniel Tanner, and I think it's a 40-foot top ditch is what's proposed in the model, and the 25-foot on both top banks of that would be the language within the servitudes.
40-foot, 20-foot on both sides, or 40-foot on both sides?
40-foot top bank ditch, like the canal itself is 40 foot, then 25-foot drainage servitude on the north side and 25-foot servitude on the south side. So
What
total,
happens if it runs into a building or something that's already there?
we could make those adjustments and we would need to get a surveyor to go lay that channel out and acknowledge what's already in existence when we draft a servitude in that effect, and we can work around that. But for the most part, that's the total widths. It would be 50 foot of total dimension servitude plus 40 foot, so 90 foot total is what you're looking at. according
90
to the
foot's
model.
gonna run into that big building that's right there.
Yeah, we'd have to survey it, but it would be as much as needed or as much as we can possibly gain in this close a dimension of 25 foot on those top banks, is what the district would need to have a heavy excavator and Jade's maintenance crews to work on that area. If they do a dredging project on Bayou Narcisse, that's how much room they would need to do that.
My only concern is it's gonna run into that big building.
Yeah, do we need more time? Because I'd hate to piecemeal this, that we agree to this and then we, have to come back and get more. I'd rather do this all at once.
We could possibly get
Yeah, I'd rather
a
push
survey
on
ran
y'all.
on that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get everything we need. I think Mr. Mason and Mr. Melanson, Mr. Melanson's next.
Okay.
He has a a question, but I would like to comment as the drainage chairman. If I signed something in 2023, and I signed that together with Ron and a homeowner, I would expect that that be carried out. And even though it didn't happen, I think this needs to be honored. So I would, and I noticed, and I certainly see that you have all been working together to try to
Sure.
solve this problem. So, sir, if you would cooperate and let them cooperate with you, and let's come up with the
And we'll
right width and the right servitude, considering the building that's there. And let's, before we address this finally, let's find a happy medium.
So we're gonna do a servitude and everything? I mean, a survey?
Yeah, I would defer to legal here, but I would suggest that we get approval maybe tonight to get a surveyor out to go
Absolutely.
lay out the channel proposed according to the FMP model plan, and then let's stake out the channel proposed and those top bank servitudes and mark any encroachments within it and produce a map in that effect, and then maybe we bring the map back to you guys for consideration.
I move that we do what
Ron
Ron
just
just
said.
stated, because I can't state it all myself,
Yeah.
but also that we continue to negotiate with Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna be taking more property, I wanna make sure that, he's getting a fair compensation for anything
Well,
that
I
we're gonna be
will
taking.
say that we're probably not looking at a bridge here. We would most likely go with box culverts, and that cost analysis is in your packet. You're looking at a pretty substantial amount of funds to replace this. However, it would be in place till a 100-year storm event, and in preparation of that drainage project coming to that way. When it does come to fruition, that infrastructure would already be upgraded to the right hydraulics.
Does that sound good to you, sir?
Yeah, once we have the survey, then we'll come back and have another meeting, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's about,
Yes,
that's the sum of it. But we'll have more information at that point.
Right,
And certainly, I think the mood of this body is to approve what is needed for you in honor of the commitment that was made to you in 2008. It
Right.
just may be box culverts rather than a bridge.
okay.
And if that's amenable to you, then that will make us all feel
As
better.
long as it doesn't get into that big building.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't foresee that, Mr. Smith. I mean, we'll call out the building in the servitude and acknowledge it in that language. There's ways to work around that. For sure, your building's there right now, so we're not gonna ask you to go move it on a servitude that we get after the fact that your building's there.
Right.
We would work out that detail in that survey.
Is there a way to temporarily repair that bridge so it would be safe?
Give us the next meeting, let us do this data work on it. I wouldn't wanna invest in something that we might be coming right back and demolishing it and putting it in boxes. I think we can probably have this before 2 months or so. We can have a survey, and probably the first meeting of the year, we'll be looking at the data to see what the next steps would be.
Okay.
We just needed to get this direction from the board and make sure, I don't disagree with where the board's going with this. We just needed it official, that we're all on the same page working together in that fashion.
Right.
And if on the day that the new council meets in the new drainage board, if you need more than one person to come stand up here and talk to them, I'll be happy to join you.
Okay. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I just know what was told me I could have
Sure.
back years ago.
Sure, we're gonna honor that.
And that 25-foot servitude is already in here.
Yeah, but it wasn't filed, sir, so we're gonna have to get it official, and, you gotta work with us and we'll work with you on that. But, it'll ultimately be a vote of the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Malonzo, did you have a
Thank you.
question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, in the CEA, it says for a one-time bridge replacement. So I'm trying to understand, was the wooden bridge there already?
Yes,
Right, okay, so that was there pre-2008.
correct.
Okay. All right. And I'm just looking at the aerial pics. Let's see. So you said it's probably roughly 25 foot wide on the top banks right now of the ditch?
No, that's the proposed servitude. I think the channel width today is roughly around 30 feet wide, but the
Okay.
proposed model says it needs to be 40 feet.
40 foot.
So when we ever come back and do a drainage project, If we go secure servitude, we need to do so in the effect of where the future plan is. And
Gotcha.
so we would ask Mr. Smith to honor that in exchange for that crossing.
Yeah, I really just see like the one building where whatever that 25-foot servitude is from the top of bank, we might have that one little area that we don't quite have the 25-foot because
Yeah.
of the structure, which we'd work around,
Well,
right?
we would acknowledge it, and I think
Right.
we can get Earls to produce a map in that effect. They'll
Okay.
they'll draw the building in it and acknowledge it as a pre-existing encroachment,
Okay.
or something in that fashion, and we'll
Yeah,
we'll
and I
work
do
with
agree. I
JP
mean,
on that
he's,
language.
whether it's recorded or not, he's got a CEA. I think
Right.
it's important for us to
And we
honor.
agree with that. We just
Yeah.
didn't want to do that and then not make the board aware of it before we made any moves in that lane.
That wood bridge was there, I want to say 1971.
Okay. I'm about to say, if that thing was built in '08, it put some miles on it.
Yes, but it's around that area.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Smith.
I would tell you, Mr. Smith, I actually think you would much prefer the box culverts.
Yeah.
Right in the bridge, that you just don't ever have to touch them again.
The parish comes and cuts the ditch and does a good job twice a year. I just want the north side cut like the south side.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malasso. Right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for working with this constituent to get it right. It's disappointing to think that something could have not been done since 2008, but, and your patience was exceptional.
Yes, we do appreciate your patience. He's been very, very, very cordial to work with, and all of the staff has definitely worked with Mr. Smith and will continue to do so.
Fantastic. So we look forward to getting this finished for you in as short an order as it can possibly be done. Thank you so much. Right. If it starts raining.
You guys got to quit talking about rain.
All right, all right. So, Aaron, you made the motion. Michael seconded it. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. So now we'll hear from Mr. Monson from HNTB with an update. Hi, John. Nice
Good
to
evening,
see
how are
you.
y'all? Seems like I haven't seen you in quite some time. Okay, so I'll go ahead and, sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, but the capital project tracking, top 5, we've made some movement on the Marvin Road Pump Station and levee improvements. We received notification from FEMA that the fund reallocation has been approved. Now we just have to wait on the approval from GOSEP. And what that means is we'll be able to enter into contract and start doing the Marvin Road Pump Station rehabilitation and the levee elevation design work. So that's good news there. On the Bayou Conway Sorrento Pump Station expansion, some good news there as well. Phase 1 deliverables are complete. We'll submit to GOSEP for approval. That Phase 1 approval has to be approved by FEMA and GOSEP before we move to Phase 2, which is the actual construction of the expansion at Bayou Conway. Sorrento Storm Surge Protection, BKI, is doing the design under the guidance of PLD. But we've been asked to apply for an FMA and/or a brick funding for the construction of that storm surge protection project, and I'll discuss a little bit more about that in the next slide. Highway 22 gapping project, not much movement there. McKim McCreed is still performing some preliminary layouts and performing a survey to produce right-of-way maps and Corps of Engineers permits. And then the New River dredging project, Ron is currently negotiating contractor closeout, so they're very close to getting that project done. So earlier this month, or late last month, there was a notice of funding opportunity for FMA brick grants. The FMA stands for Flood Mitigation Assistance, and BRIC stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities. The NOFO opened up on November 16th. The deadline is February 29th of next year, although applications have to be submitted to GOSEP on the 21st of January. Selections will take place on December of '24. There is $800 million available through FMA, with about $520 million allocated for localized flood risk reduction projects, which which is what we would be targeting. And then there's $1 billion through BRIC with $701 million available for hazard mitigation projects. So that's the one we will be targeting as well. Both programs are capped at $50 million per sub-application. So if each application is capped at $50 million. That's all we will be able to get from federal share. However, FEMA does encourage applicants to apply for both programs to maximize success. So more than likely, we'll be probably going after FMA and BRIC. And I have here some of the availability and some of the management costs that are covered. And if any of you have any specific questions, I can get with you after the meeting or just shoot me an email. I'll be able to gladly answer any questions. Grant project tracking on the hazard mitigation grant, we submitted, the first 3 have been submitted. The last bullet there is the Walsh Gully drainage improvements at $4.3 million thereabout. Those have all been submitted. We're waiting on, we wait to hear from hazard mitigation. Hazard mitigation, this is due to the 4611 Hurricane Ida allocation. So more than likely, if a good bit of these will be funded. On the BRIC, we submitted the BRIC 22 grant, Bird Island Ditch and Marty Burat. Bird Island Ditch was selected for further review. Have not heard back on Marty Burat, but those are still pending. And then the Louisiana Watershed Initiative Round 2, we have John LeBlanc Detention and Lower Bayou Conway Detention. They have been submitted. We have not heard back from them. I expect that we'll get some notice next month on the status of those 2. And then the Louisiana statewide flood control pre-applications were turned in May 1st. Final applications were submitted 9/29 for Welsh Gully drainage improvements and the Middle Henderson Channel improvements. Those projects will be recommended by an evaluation committee to the legislature in the spring regular session. So sometime in the March timeframe, we'll know whether or not one or both of those projects will be selected. All in all, we have about $21 million out there in grants that, for projects, either the design or construction process. And then this is one that Ms. Terry asked me to discuss a little bit. This is the New River project, Pump to the River. The sketch you see there was a concept that, we put together in 2021 after the 21 floods. And so what that will entail is it would be to construct a pump station near the Mississippi River with an intake basin and pump from New River into the Mississippi River. It would also require channelization and improvements from New River from the pump station to the interstate. Create a new channel and control structure on LA 74 to New River, and improve the crossing at LA 74 with new box culverts. The timeline and cost, grant applications can run anywhere between 12 and 24 months, depending on the funding source. Design and permits, another 12 to 24 months. Construction, another 12 to 24 months. And I included here some contingency, just because some of these things could go over. So the cost is about $100 million. So if all goes well, you can see a project in 4 years, but more than likely more in a 6 to 8 year time frame. And here's a sketch of what that would look like. None of this has been designed. All of this is just conceptual in nature. BCA has been produced by Hartman Engineering, and so that's what we're looking at right there. Ms. Terry, I don't know if you have any additional questions or anything else to add.
I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to look at this. I want the public to know that we are diligently working on a solution that is a big solution, but that it's very expensive.
Yes.
And that it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I want to make clear that when you say design and permits in 12 to 24 months, construction, that's not all simultaneous in the same 24 months.
Correct.
Those are 12 to 24 months for one thing, then 12 to 24 months for the next thing, then 12, and so forth.
Yeah, and depending on the grant and the funding source, some
Exactly.
grants are more flexible and some are not.
Yes. So I just want the public to have a realistic idea of when this project might see the light of day and might be able to prevent them from flooding. So it's not going to happen in 2 years, and it's not going to happen in 3. So anyone who's given the opportunity to lift their house out of fear that that perhaps they're gonna flood again, and I think there's a tremendous amount of anxiety in that area about flooding again, should take advantage of the opportunity to make that lift, because this is 6 or 8 years out, if they get the funding. I mean, it's very possible, but it's very possible that we won't. So I just want people not to pass up the opportunity to get themselves above water, hoping that somebody's gonna have that we're gonna have a miracle here and build this project. I would fully support this project. I think it's fantastic, but it's a long way off. Thank you, John, for helping me to put that out there where people can understand it. If anybody has any questions about that, gentlemen, I'm certainly that John will entertain them. Thank you, John, very much.
Thank you. And with that, I will take any additional questions regarding the ADAPT program. Okay. All right,
Thank you for
thank
everything
you.
you're doing.
Appreciate it.
The Drainage Monthly Report, Jade. And I'll lose some more of them in a few minutes, so tell us what you got.
Good evening, Chair. Thank y'all for having us this evening.
Thank you.
So I did this as a 7 slide, not a 60 slide, so it should be quick, short and sweet.
Good deal.
So what I did for y'all this time, just a little different. I gave y'all overview of January 1st through October, and then also October, really quick. Total of 2,625 work orders come through in the year of 2023. 1,619 completed, 46 in progress at the moment. So we're maintaining a 62% completion rate. So we've been hanging in that area pretty close. Total work orders by department. Now this is total since January 1st. Minor drainage, 1,915. East Ascension Drainage Board, that is the projects that are requested by either administration or y'all, 293. Culvert maintenance, 183. Major drainage, 141. And waterway is 93. It just gives a really big idea where most of those work orders come from. So what was actually completed of that number, minor East Ascension drainage completed 1,105. The EAD projects, 198, culvert maintenance, 171, waterways, 73, and major drainage, 72 of that total was completed. So just a slight little look at the different activities. As usual, it's such a big graph, it doesn't show everything.
So tell me where you're at on percentage of projects completed as opposed to those requested.
62%.
So we're still in that 60% range.
Yes, ma'am. So what that is, that's an average of seven work orders per day completed for 1 year at this moment.
So what's the goal of the department on work orders? Do we have a goal? Are we reaching out there to get to 70% of our work orders that come in can be done? Or is that an unreasonable expectation?
I'm not going to say unreasonable, but I really think when you start looking at a work order system, or you have to ask yourself two questions. Are we going to respond to work orders, or are we going to do maintenance? So when you respond to work orders, we don't have a rating system right now. And that is one of the things that me and Ron, I guess, would like to probably propose in '24, is when you see 2,000 work orders, do you just respond to the next work order up, or do you rate it? Is it a 1, a 2, 3, 4, or 5? So some of these things are asked for are really not needed. They're wants.
Right.
They're not going to provide a benefit for the public. So I think that's
Good
where
luck with that.
Well,
Good luck with that.
hey, it's just a reasonable explanation for 2,000 work orders.
Right, and I get that.
And I just don't think you can pick the percentages up without looking at the necessary jobs.
Right.
So that's where we kind of look for our staff. We build our staff. We train our management to identify these issues when they go inspect these in the field and come back and bring that rating, discuss it with the top tier and say, what is priority? What is going to give the best bang for the buck and the benefit to the parish to keep us from flooding?
Sure. Look, I understand all
That's
that.
my idea.
I understand all that and agree with you. But I will tell you that the public wants their work orders done.
Sure.
And their position typically is, look, if I'm getting 60% of my work done, I'm not doing real well. So I'm trying to encourage you to find a way to get to 70% of your work done.
Yeah. I think you'll
And
see that with more maintenance.
Yeah.
And one of the,
Absolutely.
you'll see it in, really in vegetation, because it's such a quicker return in what they do.
Right.
It's a faster product. You'll see where we actually turn that in vegetation with the maintenance. Once the maintenance is done, the work orders slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, and thank you for that explanation. Anybody else have any questions about this particular part? And then I'll allow him to go on. All right, Jay.
So, and here's your report for the month of October. We received 89 new work orders and completed 87 of those 89 work orders. Much better than 62%.
Much better. The public likes that much better.
Yes, ma'am. And in progress major drainage projects, we're still working on shredding Panama Canal. At this time, I will tell you our shredder is down. It is in the shop. So soon as it gets back, we'll get started back on that project. We do have a long reach shredding right now, but our high water shredder is down at the moment. Digging McKinley Anderson lateral, median crossings at I-10 south of Highway 30 to Highway 22. Setting culvert crossings of Savoy Road to New River. And we completed digging the Holiday Inn lateral in the month of October. And we'll move on to Ron's part of capital projects.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay.
I got 30 seconds and I'll be
You
done.
got it.
All right, so we didn't catch you guys in September, and Ms. Terry, so I figured we'd catch you an update on the New River tilting weir. As John mentioned, met with Davis Cole today about closing out the New River dredging. That'll be coming to you guys probably in January. But here was the original concept of the weir, what it would look like. And fast forward to today, this was back in August. They had the foundation formwork and the wall formwork with all the steel in place, getting ready to pour it. August the 3rd, they poured the floor. Everything went just fine. Move up to September, they let that cure for a while, and then they poured our walls, got all those in place. And we're moving into November, and now the walls are cured, and they started installing the catwalks, and you're starting to see the rail system come into play where the winches will be mounted. The gates are actually being installed. If you look at the very bottom of the photo, 3 of the gates are in place. They're making the final adjustments, and they're in the process of installing those gates now. They will be getting those actuator motors and winch cables in that'll lower and raise those gates, and the project's progressing very well. We're on target with budget and time. Here's the overall schedule of it. You can see in the red, that's about where we are, installing, fabricating the gates, driving sheet piles, wing walls, all that's underway. And so these contractors are really moving along very well, right on pace, on time, on budget. We have a monthly with them every month, and we're very proud to see that project coming to fruition. John covered most of the other things, and Jared covered the concrete lining earlier, so that concludes my report. I just figured I'd give you all that update.
Thank you so much.
Afternoon, everyone. All right, here we go for my Vegetation Department report for October 2023. We have an update on our state highway contract. We've completed cutting our second cycle. They had just recently finished 928 Bluff Road. We're 100% complete on our herbicide, and we still have just 3 highways left to do for trash. Quick update on our Lifehouse Church United contract. So far, paid to date is $1,026,000. We have 72,000 remaining. That'll get us to the beginning of next year. Some work order metrics for our call center. We received 43 last month. Breakdown by activity, most of it's off-road, servitude maintenance. We have had a little bit of uptick in our trash and roadside debris. We completed 23 this month. Internal vegetation work orders of preventative maintenance cycles, and our state highway contract. We completed 95 last month. A quick spotlight, just upstream from the weir. This is during progress. We cleaned up all of New River Banks to the weir to 61. In progress, cleaning a bunch of grub trees and stuff along the canal. And now we've got a clear maintained channel all the way from 61 to the weir. You can see in the background in this picture. Any questions or
Outstanding.
comments?
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes.
Michael?
Mr. Samuel, can you explain to me the differences if somebody wants a hand cut in terms of time and hand cut and a spray? Because I try to convey it, but I want to make sure I'm giving out the right information. So if they request a ditch to be cut and they say, well, I want a hand cut, I don't want it sprayed, what's the time difference in that work to do?
Our hand crews usually have a higher mobility, and their turnover clock as far as work orders is much more quicker because their work scale is a lot smaller. To come around with our tractor crews, if we are having no issues with equipment and weather's not an issue, about every 2 to 3 months. Sometimes if it's hand cleaning, they can get there within 4 weeks of having a service request put in. It all just depends on a lot of factors of where it's at. If it's a major channel, we're always going to try to do it with the appropriate equipment, unless hazards deemed it has to be done by hand.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.